Today's video is a little bit of possibly a how-to. I've got to change the Kronings 1500 plus heater in my Hero camper because the original one isn't working properly. So Hero camper has sent me out this replacement. So I thought I'd record it so you can understand both how to remove yours if you have a problem. Also, if you're thinking about adding one of these to your Hero camper because you didn't add a heating option when you bought it, you can kind of do the reverse and see how it all goes together. So in this video I'll show you the tools to use and the process I've taken to take one out and put the new one in. Okay, so the tools you're going to need for this job are pretty straightforward. You're going to need a Phillips head screwdriver and a Torx T20 driver of some sort, and if possible I recommend a ratchet, especially for getting on top of the heating unit with the top drawer still in. A pair of pliers, basically for cutting cables if you need to, as well as zip ties, and if you have them, some wire cutters will make things a lot easier. A little bit of patience, but remember, before you get started, make sure that you're not plugged in to the grid and you isolate the power by kind of flicking the master fuse switch. So let's get on with it. Okay, so I've got the new heating unit just on the side here on a cloth so it doesn't scratch anything, and the existing heater is just behind here, behind the lower kind of pan drawer, and then the power and stuff's behind here. So first thing we need to do is to get these drawers out, and there's little clips on each side that you have to push down and pull up, and then things should slide off. I recommend wearing some kind of gloves because obviously the drawer runners will be a little bit greasy. So let's get these drawers out of the way, and then we can get access to the heater. Okay, that should do. I don't think I'm going to need access behind the fridge unit more than just being able to open up the drawer. Okay, so when we look inside at the existing heating unit, we've got a couple of things going on. Obviously, the heating unit itself, which is screwed to the base in 4 areas, so it's going to be a little bit tricky getting around the back there. Then here we have this white cable. This is the Ethernet cable that runs into the cabin and to the controller on the wall. Then we have the power and obviously the ducting as well. So I'm going to take the ducting off the side here because I'm going to reuse these existing pipes. These snake through. One obviously goes into the cabin on this side, and then this one goes all the way through to the other side into the cabin as well. And then the cables run neatly in some trunking at the back that we'll be able to see once we get things off. We will have to take the top off as well because we're going to have to remove this RJ45 cable and plug it into the new box. But yep, let's get our tools and take this out. Okay, just for ease of use, first thing I'm going to do is undo this Phillips head bolt so we can get this one side of the tube off. Again, we're going to make sure we keep these somewhere safe. I think that should just come off. Just like this. Okay, so let's pull that up a little bit so we have access around here. And then we need to get, I believe it's a Torx head bolt or a bit for inside these lower bolts. Okay, so these are indeed T20 Torx head bolts or screws that we need to get out. So you can either use a screwdriver or a socket set or something. You can easily get access to that, and obviously we've got 4 of those to do, so we'll just get those out one by one. One thing that's pretty handy about this is if you see it's one of self-tapping screws, so if you ever want to install other things in your Hero camper, here's a good example of the type of screw to use. Okay, so there was a bolt at the far back one here, and then one over here on the left, but not one in the far back left. So now we can easily move things about. And I guess that's probably because it'd be quite difficult to have got one in down the back there. So next thing we're going to do is open the top. So I'll show you what's inside there. Again, 4 T20 bolts for us to remove so we can get access and remove this Ethernet cable so we can reuse it. Obviously, if you're doing this for the first time or you need to replace the Ethernet cable, you'll have to obviously disconnect that and rerun it all the way back through into the cabin through the trunking area. Okay, so once all those bolts are out, we can lift the top of the lid off. Let's move that out of the way. And then you can see inside. And basically this Ethernet cable just clips in just down there, so we can push down on that. It'll come out the socket. Just do that carefully. And you can slowly feed it out of the hole. Just be careful you don't pull back on the top clip where it clips in. And now we can reuse that on the next piece of the install. So now we just need to uncut these clips and follow the power routing around the back. Okay, so you follow the power cable back, we'll actually notice it just goes into this plug. So we'll undo that plug, just like this. Now I have to take the plug apart and wire in the new unit. For those of you who might be thinking, if you're reusing the Ethernet cable, maybe that was part of your issue. It's not. I already tried a different Ethernet cable and a different thermostat before kind of coming to the conclusion that it's the actual heating unit that is broken. But the advantage is obviously once we put that plug on the end, we can just do a test straight away without having to reinstall everything if it doesn't work properly. Okay, so this is unit out. Obviously going to screw the top back on again. There's nothing obvious inside that indicates why it wouldn't be working. You can see better now that the Ethernet cable will come through here and connects into this Ethernet slot just here. So you can see there it says RJ45 on the circuit board. But yeah, the fuse is intact, the fuse hasn't blown there. So yeah, the issue I was basically having is that the heat would only start for a few seconds and then it would stop for about 2-3 minutes, start again but only for a few seconds and then stop again, so it just wasn't permanently running. So we can do a test of the new unit before we install it to see if it's exhibiting the same behaviour or not. One of the things actually quite interesting now I've got these two heaters out is I'm always a little bit surprised that the air suction for the heater, for the airflow, isn't outside of the camper. So you can see on the one I'm just taking out, there's just a grill over the front here, and obviously you've got a small amount of room, probably a couple of inches to the side of that it uses to suck the air in. And then on the one that we're going to install, you can see it's got the vent on the outside, so I need to take that off and put the fan on, because you can see that's directing where the airflow is. So I know here a camper basically did a bench test I think of this to make sure it was working properly, so hopefully it is all going to work properly. But that's something that's always kind of puzzled me, why it doesn't suck air from the outside for better airflow. But I guess that's an option, but I guess it would involve drilling a hole into the side of your camper. But yeah, interesting. So I'm going to take the other one apart. So basically reverse of just what you've just seen, plug in the Ethernet cable, and then I'll show you basically replacing that side vent with the grill and rewiring the plug, and then we'll just do a quick bench test before we put it in. Okay, so it's just 4 screws again, or bolts to remove again, they're T20s. So put put this off. There we go. Okay, so that's that removed, and then we have the grill. Came in a separate bag that we need to install. Again, I don't know if this is a brand new heater or not. It's a bit indented on the side here, not sure if you can see. As long as it works, I don't really care. So let's get these back in. Slightly different hole positioning when you're putting the grill on. Just put those in loosely, and I do them at opposite angles always to start with. Just means you get the alignment done properly. Okay, that's the safety grill for the fan all installed. Now we just need to take the plug off the old one and wire in the new one. Okay, so I've never taken apart a European plug before, but I'm assuming I'll just undo that Phillips head screw at the top and then things will start to show themselves. So pop this off. This little washer at the top of that, and then okay, yeah, so it just pushes forwards now to reveal the cabling. So I just need to make a mental note for myself how that all goes together. Typically I'll just take a picture so that I can remember, but from the top here, blue, earth, and then the brown. So swatch those over, and actually these have been terminated quite nicely on the new one, so make for a cleaner install in the plug. Okay, it's obvious now, you remove it. These cables are obviously far too long to be terminated into the plug, so I'm going to have to cut them down and cut them off ready to be used in the plug. So I guess when they did a bench test at the factory, they probably just plugged these in direct to a power supply, so I will need to chop these back. So I'll do that now and then wire up the plug again like it was, ready for this new one, and then we will bench test it. Okay, so I've wired the plug back up again. If you've got little crimpers like this, it makes things a lot easier and neater. I'm going to plug this in now, and we'll just do a bench test here to see basically is the heat constant, and also gets me a better chance of seeing how things are working as opposed to it's all kind of hidden away in the cubby. So this power plug should reach down underneath, and yeah, see how it goes. Oh, also have to turn the power back on in the camper and plug it into the mains. Okay, so here we have everything's plugged in, power back on again. Just press the power button. So the green light at the top here indicates that there is power, and the green light at the bottom means that it's heating. So set it to 23, so we can feel that the fan is spinning as the air is being drawn through, and we can feel air on the other side. So let's just see basically how long does that bottom green light stay on for. That's the thing we were dealing with. Don't know how well it shows up on the camera. Still on at the moment. So far so good. Obviously this is a good test as well to prove that it's working outside of the enclosed area. Still looking good so far. Nice hot air coming out of there. green light is still showing. So I'm just going to leave this testing for a few minutes and see basically if that green light stays on basically longer than it was in the past, and I'll be happy and I will put it back in and do things up. Okay, so I feel pretty confident that is all working now as it should do, so I'm going to reinstall it back underneath and then do a final test inside. The difference obviously will be a different Ethernet cable. Like I said, I tested that before and it worked absolutely the same way, so shouldn't be any issues. And yeah, then we're doing a final test in situ and see how things work. And hopefully this has been helpful so that if you need to do a similar thing, you know how to do it. So just need to reroute the cables back in and get things installed. Okay, so we're all installed again. Straightforward, basically the reverse of what we did. So now let's go inside the camper, turn it on with the original controller in here because we know that wasn't faulty, and see what happens. So currently thinks it's 22 in here because it is relatively warm. So pop up to 27 and then we'll see how long this stays on for and if it's working correctly. If not, then obviously the other options we have is put the other controller back on that came with this, and then worst case we'll change out that cable. But as I mentioned before, I know the cable's good, I know the controller's good, so all should be well. So I'm just going to leave this for a few minutes, see how we get on, and then I'll check back in with you to hopefully finish up this video. So that's it. I hope this video helped you if you need to either take apart your Heat 1500 Plus from Kronings for your Hero camper, or if you decide to do an aftermarket install. Obviously I didn't show you installing the heating pipes, but that's pretty much straightforward. You can see where the pipes go and we're connecting to the existing holes. So thanks so much for watching. As always, take care of yourself. If you haven't done already, please consider subscribing and pressing that notification icon, and also a thumbs up will be much appreciated. Bye for now.